So lately I've been getting a lot of requests to mix other people's music from here on YouTube. Typically I'd have to write out, what DAW you're using Logic Pro Tools. I'd have to tell them how to back up their files and send them to me. So instead of writing out the whole entire process, I'm just going to show you what to do. That way, if you're interested in the future to get your music mixed by me, you can just refer back to this video and I'll show you step by step on what to do to prepare your files for me and to send them to me. So let's get started. So right now I'm opening up this project and I'm going to show you how to save all the files that are in use to a separate folder on the desktop. That way you're not getting any of the extra junk files or extra takes. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to File, Save a Copy As. Now we're going to save it on the desktop. And we're going to make sure everything here is default checked. Include assets, which is just like the actual audio files. Copy EXS instruments to a project folder. You'd want to check that only if you are using specific presets like in Logic. If you're not using a lot of virtual instruments, you don't need to check that, but if you are, I would just check that just in case. Ultrabeat samples. If you're using Ultrabeat, definitely check that. If you're not, don't worry about that. Space Designer impulse responses. If you're using Space Designer as your reverb, check that. If you're not using Space Designer, don't worry about that. And copy movie files to project folder. I'm not dealing with any movie files, and if you are, you might as well check that. But pretty much, if you're just doing vocals and standard stuff, the default options will already be checked for you. So this is what we're going to do. Since I have a lot of files on my desktop, I'm just going to save it to my studio folder. Alright, so export as. We're going to call that Conductor 2001 Mix. But I'm going to put copy in the file name so I know it's a copy file and not the actual file that I'm running. So I'm going to make it copy and I'm going to hit save. And like I mentioned earlier, what it's doing is it's analyzing all the files that are actually in use and copying just those files. So all the extra files, double takes that you use that are unnecessary, it's not going to copy those files. And when it's not doing that, it's going to make the actual file size smaller for the project. If you were just to compress the actual project folder, it would be bigger because it'd have all those unneeded files. So we're just going to copy as, save as, and compress that file. So when it's done, I'm going to show you how to compress it. Alright, so right here, Conductor 2001 Mix copy, that's the file I just saved. Inside the file will be my audio files and actual file to the project. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to just get the main folder that you called it, right click, and go to compress. And right now it's going to make a compressed copy into a zip file. I'm going to wait for that to finish. Alright, now that that's done, let's check out the original file size, 1.6 gigabytes, and the compressed file size. It says 875 megabytes. So, in this case, since this file is probably going to be larger than something you can send over Mega Upload or FileDropper.com media file, I definitely would recommend you getting a Dropbox. I believe Dropbox gives you 2 gigabytes free. And basically what you do is you just drag it to your Dropbox. After you install it, it'll be here on your left hand side. Drag and drop, and in the background what it'll do is it'll upload it. Okay, so Pro Tools. There are two ways I'm going to show you. This first way is the best way to do things, especially if you're exporting these files for someone else or someone who doesn't have Pro Tools 10, or let's say you have version Pro Tools 9 and you want to give to someone who's using Cubase or Logic like myself. This first way, I'm going to show you how to consolidate the files and pretty much just send them as waves instead of the project files. The second way I'm going to show you is just simply how to compress the project folder and send it to someone. Alright, so what I'm going to do is open up a session from Pro Tools. So this is my Pro Tools session. Typically when you open up a Pro Tools session, you're going to have open blocks. It's not going to be all, one lane, all the same length. They're going to be kind of like this probably. Spaces in between the hooks and the verses, they're going to be like this pretty much. Now, what we're going to do is consolidate everything. And what consolidate does is pretty much how you saw the session open up. It's going to be making all the files the same length. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is go to Groups, click All. That way, whatever you put your cursor, it's going to select all the tracks. The next step we're going to do is come over here to the very end of the session and make sure that you select a little bit of empty space. And you're going to highlight from that empty space from the right all the way to the left. You're going to want to get everything from the beginning to the end, but you want to leave a little gap so it gets the absolute end. From here, we're going to go ahead and go to Edit and then Consolidate Regions. What this is going to do, it's going to make all the files the same length from beginning to end. That way, after you save the files, anyone can drop them in their session, whether it's Cubase, Logic, Sonar. Alright, so after all that is done, what we're going to do is click on it one more time. It's going to highlight everything, and you're going to want to bring up your region list on the right. Now, if yours isn't open, it's this little icon right here. On the far right hand bottom, it looks like an arrow pointing to the left. You're going to click that arrow if it's closed, and this window is going to pop up. It says Regions. Now, let's make this window bigger so you can see what's going on. Everything that's highlighted blue is exactly what's over here on the left that's highlighted. So since you have your groups on to all, by clicking one of the regions, all the regions that are highlighted are going to be highlighted here. So now what we do is we right click on one of the regions after everything's highlighted, and you're going to want to go to Export Region as Files. A new window is going to pop up. File format, make sure it says WAV. AIFF is fine, but WAV is pretty much compatible with everything. Format, make sure it says multiple mono. That way every single file is a mono file. Bit depth 24, sample rate 44.1. Now destination directory. Go to choose. Go ahead and go to your desktop or your studio folder. Now I want you to make a new folder and make the folder whatever the track is called. This track is called All I Am. Go ahead and make it say copy so you know it's a copy, a backup file. And then go ahead and hit open at the bottom once you're inside that folder that you just created. Export. And instead of bouncing the file like you would normally, it's just going to process the files and put them in the folders. Alright, so we're done here. Let's go ahead and open up the file where they are at. All I Am. Alright, so here we go. Here are all the files. Now, because we use this method, you're not going to get a Pro Tools file. You're just going to get all the files from beginning to end. So, right-click on the folder. We'll go to Compress. Wait for it to compress the files. Okay, so the original file was 474 megabytes. The compressed file is 131. So this is small enough to use some websites like Mediafire.com, FileDropper, or any of those file sharing sites. So if you do not have a Dropbox, you can go ahead and upload this file and shoot me the link and everything will be good. But if you're already comfortable with Dropbox, all you would do is drag it to your Dropbox folder, wait for it to upload, and then shoot me a link after it's all done. Okay, so the second method is much more simpler, but then again, you have to make sure whoever you're sending it to has the right version of Pro Tools that you're running. So the second method is pretty simple. Go ahead and go to File, Save Copy In, check all audio files, make sure WAV, 441, and 24-bit are selected, and that's it. Click OK. Go to your desktop, make a new folder, all IM session, create, go to save, and it will go ahead and pretty much do the same process as before, but also give you the Pro Tool files and make sure that everything is lined up the way it should be. Alright guys, so hopefully my demonstration and walkthrough was clear enough for you to understand. I'm going to be having more videos in the future. Videos on my favorite plugins, tips and tricks for the beginner, how to get a good sound when you're placing your mic, and things like that, drum stuff. So look out for those, and I hope to see and hear from you soon. Thanks.